Tanvi Marupally has been found. She was missing 75 days from Conway, Arkansas, and she was found 1,000 miles away in Tampa. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, Empowering True Crime Alex here. So today we're talking about Tanvi Marupally. She's actually 15 years old now. When she went missing at the beginning of, or actually it was January 17th, she was 14. And so we're going to get into the press conference today, but there were definitely, I posted a short yesterday, there were definitely a lot of questions that came up. I could not possibly tackle all of them in less than a minute short. So we're going to talk about those things today, and I welcome you to share any comments, give me your feedback, let me know what you think about this case. For those of you who are new, I cover everything true crime, missing persons, DV, SA cases. I see myself as the voice for the voiceless. I am a communications professional. I was a past publicist, media consultant, and I will help people, entrepreneurs, to share their message. And this is a passion of mine, to help those who can no longer be their own voice, to share their stories and help those who can't speak on their own get justice. And so I'm going to pull up I'm going to share my screen. Before I forget, I live in Florida and my AC at the moment is not working properly. So if you see me sweating, literally, it's because of that. All right, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lacey Knipe. I am the Public Information Officer for the Conway Police Department. Thank you all for attending this press conference today. So here with me, I have the City of Conway Mayor Bart Castleberry. I have the Conway Police Department Chief of Police William Tapley, and the United States Deputy Marshal Jeremy Hammonds, who oversees the Missing Child Task Force. Chief Tapley and Deputy Marshal Hammonds are here to speak with you about information surrounding the Tanvi Marupally investigation. Please save your inquiries for the end of this press conference, where Chief Tapley will come back to the podium to address a few questions from the media.
All right, so we're hearing.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. Today is a good day. Tanvi Marupally is at home with her family, safe and sound, exactly where she should be. I'm not sure everybody heard that. Tanvi Marupally is at home, safe and sound with her family where she should be. As many of you know, Tanvi left school on January the 17th of this year. However, instead of getting on the bus, Tanvi continued to walk down Davis Street north into the northern part of town. Until yesterday, that is all the information that we had about the disappearance of Tanvi Marupally. Today...
All right, I just had to stop there for a second. So there was no other... All they knew is that she went to the north of her city. They had no idea, so there must not have been any CCTV footage or anything like that that showed her in this entire time, which is wild.
We know that she continued walking north to the railroad track. Once she reached the railroad tracks, she continued to walk down them for several miles through the night. She continued walking the next day until she found a train which she could board. She boarded that train and eventually made her way to Kansas City. After several days, she arrived in Kansas City on approximately January the 22nd, at which time she entered the community and found a homeless shelter. She checked into that homeless shelter under a false identity and stayed in the Kansas City area for approximately 2 months. 2 months that she spent by herself in Kansas City. After that 2-month period, she decided that she was going to move. As far as we know, it was a random choice in moving, but she did catch a bus and she went to Tampa, Florida. When she arrived in Tampa, she found an abandoned building that she began to reside in. Tanvi's love for the library is ultimately what led to her discovery. She found a local library where she was researching jobs that she could do for cash off of Craigslist. Fortunately, there was a Tampa area citizen that recognized that there was an individual in the library that matched the description of Tanvi. You've heard many times over the years, see something, say something. This is absolutely 100% the case here. That one individual, because they saw the picture on the website for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, took a photograph of the person that they saw, forwarded it to them on the 28th. We received that information early in the morning of the 29th, and we began trying to verify that this was in fact Tanvi. That took several hours. It took several agencies. We reached out to the U.S. Marshal Service, who has been helping us from the very beginning of this case. We reached out to the Tampa Police Department. And ultimately, in a case of sheer luck, when the police department went to check to see video footage from the library, Tanvi had returned.
Wanted to stop there a second. So it was interesting, even though it was almost, I guess at this point, 2.5 months later, somebody recognized her from the missing persons website. That's why we share these things, because on that one chance that you happen to be the person, or you share it and somebody that saw your post recognizes somebody and decides to call it in, like he said, see something, say something. It can't be underscored enough how important it is to take action. And so I'm glad that Tampa resident saw the person, decided to take action, and it ended up being a match. Let's continue.
At that point, they were able to make contact with her. She immediately identified herself as Tanvi Marupally and stated that she had left her family here in Conway, Arkansas. She was taken into protective custody, transported to the Tampa Police Department, where she was interviewed again to verify that the person that we were dealing with was in fact Tanvi. She was asked a series of questions that only Tanvi would know the answers to. And so at the end of that, we were certain that Tanvi had been located. That was at approximately 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon. We immediately began our efforts to reunite Tanvi with her family. Keep in mind, she was in Tampa, Florida, 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We're here in Conway just finding out that she's there. We were able to organize, go to Tampa, pick her up, bring her back to Conway, Arkansas, do the necessary things that we have to do as part of the investigation, and reunite her with her family last night. That was an amazing amount of work by an amazing group of people. And we are very happy to say that she's exactly where she should be today. There is a long list of agents.
Okay, so I just wanted to make a note here. They said, so this press conference was on the 30th. She was located on the 28th in Tampa. They received the information on the 29th. By 2 p.m., she was in custody, and they were able to, somebody from Conway, Arkansas was able to go down to Tampa and then get her back to Arkansas between 2 p.m. and sometime in the evening. So that's remarkable. That is very fast. Wow. I mean, I the only thing I can think of is that they took planes, unless I don't know. Anyways, that was remarkably fast. So kudos to them for acting fast and getting her home quickly. My only concern would be, because she was a runaway to begin with, my only concern would be that she might try to escape or something like that. But she didn't. So, all right, let's continue.
Agencies that helped with this investigation throughout, and I'm going to attempt to name them. I am quite sure that I will leave somebody out. It is with no ill will. It's just quite an extensive list. First and foremost, I want to thank the Conway community and the individuals who worked tirelessly to keep this case in the public's eye. This community really came together and pulled 100% for Tanvi. We were not always in agreement. We did not always see things the same way. However, we all had the same goal in mind, and that was to bring Tanvi. Additionally, we would like to thank the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Tampa Police Department, the Morgan Nick Foundation, Arkansas Fusion Center, NAMUS, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Arkansas State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Attorney General's Office, Conway Public Schools, the Department of Human Services, A Child is Missing, Palos Investigations, Search Dogs South, Jacksonville Police Department, Conway Street Department, Conway Fire Department, Arkansas State Parks. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk briefly about all of the hard work and the dedication that the men and the women of the Conway Police Department put into this investigation. While not always visible, it's not always on the front page, and it's not always put out there for everyone to see for obvious reasons, these men and women have worked tirelessly to bring Tanvi home.
So interestingly, there was some criticism of the police department for various things. For example, that they lost her after, after she walked north from the school, and that, so there had been some criticism, but at the same time, we know how delicate some of these things are. Even in this case, she meant to leave. So it's difficult enough in cases where somebody doesn't mean to leave and there might be some clues left behind or whatever. But when somebody specifically, wants to leave, it can be extra tricky. So, okay, let's go ahead and continue.
Police department, we have great people that work for the police department, and they should be thanked for a job well done. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy U.S. Marshal Jeremy Hammond.
Hello. So, like Chief said, we were invited to come on this case. We were asked to assist kind of early on this. Normally, when you think of U.S. Marshals, you think of guys that track down fugitives, or we catch the escapee that breaks out of prison, or maybe you relate us to the Old West movies where the marshal rides into town. Well, we still do that stuff, kind of. But we've also, as of 2015, we've been brought on to do missing child cases. So I've been with the Marshal Service now for 13 years. This is actually one, I've worked a few missing child cases, but not to the extent that this one came with. They called me up because we actually have a fledgling MCU unit forming here in Eastern Arkansas that's going to be up and going full steam, I hope, very soon. I have one other investigator that I have to thank that's worked with me tirelessly on this, and Megan Warnick. She is an expert in human trafficking and missing children, so I brought her on board, and she has been an absolute wealth of information for my team, for Conway. But we got involved early on. We sat down, we did a briefing with Conway PD. They told me what we had, and I remember one of the main things that stood out to me was they kept telling me over and over, they said, this child is known to be very resourceful, she's probably good out in the woods, this kind of thing. And I kept thinking to myself, we're talking about a 14-year-old girl here, they're like, she reads books, she goes to the library, and believe me, I was the nerd in high school. So I know, I spent my time in the library. If you put me out in the woods, I'd have never made it. So I had no idea I was dealing with a little Rambo here. She was able to survive, get out there, and she made a long trek, and I'm very thankful that she made that very safely.
Yeah, just wanted to make a point there. So She did. She survived. At first, she was in a homeless shelter in Kansas City, but she ended up in an abandoned building. I mean, she made the treks all by herself. She is quite a resilient, smart young lady. So, this at the end of this, we're going to talk about the human trafficking angle and how that's why it's so important to find these kids as soon as possible because of that vulnerability. And she's not only is she young, but she looks young. She's small. There's other angles here that that put her even more vulnerable. So interesting to see. All right, let's go ahead and continue.
When I got to seeing everything that was happening with this case, or what I've heard, I was absolutely astonished that she did all this. Biggest thing is we're so glad that she's safe. We were strictly an assistive agency. Some people have asked, what are the feds doing with this? We strictly came in and assisted. We didn't take the case. We don't ever go in and take over a case. We support that agency. And I have to say, every time I've met with any of the officers or detectives or staff there at Conway PD, they were very receptive. They were very responsive. I can remember late at night calls where I was giving them information and they were moving on it like this. So very proud of the work they did. And I'm very proud to work alongside of them. So I just think she's here. Thank you.
Have to fix that. She got on to me for not having it where it needed to be earlier. So I'm gonna answer just a few questions, if there are any from the audience. We believe that it was due to the stress involved from information that she believed the family might end up being deported.
Okay, so we can't hear the questions, but I believe he asked why. What was the reason for her to leave? So I'm just going to go ahead and answer, rewind, and let's see if we can answer that again.
We believe that it was due to the stress involved from information that she believed the family might end up being deported. And because of that, she felt it was best for her to leave.
And another point here. So I used to be a publicist, spokesperson for different brands, and when you're doing a press conference like this, you have to, and when it's being recorded, you have to have a microphone on the media because I have no idea what she's saying or whoever it is it's saying. So let's see if we could decipher this together. Or the person at the podium needs to repeat the question. In this case, he's just going to answer. Let's see what happens.
Right. So there is somewhat of a difference. There are resources that are available if a child is abducted in those types of.
Okay, so I believe the question was, what are the resources that are available between somebody a child who was abducted and a child that runs away? Okay, and this is actually a big criticism, not just here in this police department, but across the US. Why are there not as many resources available for kids who run away when we know that those kids are vulnerable, very vulnerable as well?
Right. So there is somewhat of a difference. There are resources that are available if a child is abducted. In those type of situations, an Amber Alert can be sent out immediately. Those things aren't available with a runaway. They mostly have to do with the initial investigation process between a runaway and a missing child or abducted child. But after a few days transpire, the investigation portion of it is pretty much the same. Looking into different things, looking into different avenues, interviewing different people, all of those same sort of things.
My understanding is that no Amber Alert was put out for Tanvi because it was assumed that she ran away. There's been some messages on the Facebook page for the PD that says that she had actually run away before. So maybe because that's like a repeat, maybe they're like, okay, she is a runaway, she wasn't abducted, or she wasn't, there's not foul play or suspicious activity going on. So they were pretty confident that she was a runaway. That said, still very vulnerable. So, I'm not sure that they shouldn't, especially for a child, they shouldn't put out an Amber Alert or have a different type of alert. Maybe it's not Amber, but maybe it's Red Alert. I don't know.
That's okay. Sure. So as a department, honestly, as humans, we learn from every interaction that we have. Everything that we do, we learn things that we can do better or should do differently. So we take every opportunity to review what has taken place and what has done and make adjustments accordingly. I do believe we work tirelessly to find Tanvi. As I told you a minute ago, um, unfortunately, in this case, we knew that she walked north on Davis Street. That is where it ended. We followed up on countless leads, countless tips, sightings, videos, all of these different things. But until yesterday, until last night, there was no viable information as to whereabouts of Tanvi. She was outside of this city the same afternoon that she walked away. Um, there was no one that saw her. There was no one that had information. It was a dead end. We worked everything we could work, and when we had exhausted all of the tips and the information that we got, we started over again with the very basics back at the beginning to see if anything was missed, if anything could be seen that wasn't seen the first time. So we were very exhausted.
So I wanted to make a point there because in some of these smaller towns, and I've never been to Arkansas, and I've never definitely not haven't been to Conway, but in some of these smaller towns, maybe I mentioned that there wasn't CCTV footage, and in some of these small towns there isn't, right? And I live in a large city, and if you live in a larger city, that a lot of times more people tend to have, especially if you're closer to a downtown or to something, more people have cameras. And so this was a small city. I find it so hard to believe that that they missed her once she got out of the city. I don't know where's north of Conway, but yeah, that's definitely a concern for some of these smaller towns where these crimes happen. And maybe that is why we start to hear about these crimes happening in some of these smaller towns, because they don't have that CCTV footage, because they don't have a lot of people, because there aren't a lot of witnesses. Maybe that's why some of these things we hear about happening in small towns, the ones that aren't solved right away, right?
I do not have the name in front of me.
And I'm sorry, I don't know what the question was, but they said a name in front of it. It could have been the person the citizen, I don't know, or it could have been the name of the shelter, or maybe the name of the library. Unfortunately, we don't have those questions. We can't hear those questions. Let's move on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Yes, that is correct. She was there on two different dates, times that we know of. We know that she was, as I said, she was searching for jobs on Craigslist. She had a phone, a functioning phone in her possession, and so she was she was maintaining out there,
So the question was related to she was spotted twice at the library.
which is very difficult for me to understand with a 14-year-old, now 15-year-old child, but she absolutely was. So I am not aware where she got the phone. The investigators may have that information, but I don't have it. We do not have any indication at this point that she received help from anyone. One more question. I do not know that information off the top of my head. Sure, I'm actually glad that you asked that question. There's been a lot of debate back and forth about why there was or why there was not a press conference. And I actually have already given you the reason. When Tanvi left, we had no information until yesterday as to where she was. She didn't have electronics. She didn't have anything of that nature. We followed the leads, but they kept leading us to a dead end. We had put the information out early on in our social media that said these are the things that we know. We had contact with several different media outlets, gave them the same information. The fact is that we just didn't have new information to give until yesterday. Last one, very last one. No, she is the last one. I'm sorry. So my belief is that at some point in time, she would have been located. But make no mistake about it, if it had not been for that individual from Tampa that stood up, saw something, and said something, Tanvi would not be home today. The search would continue. We as a community and the Marupally family owe that person a debt of gratitude. So that's all we have time for. I appreciate everybody coming in today.
Yeah, so interesting, huh? So they're basically saying that the person from Tampa is responsible for Tanvi being found and home, right? So that person seeing something and saying something. If that person hadn't said that or hadn't sent the photo to police, then they would still be looking for Tanvi. So very, very, very interesting that it ended up being a citizen. And many times it is. And this is why social media is so important. It's so important to, social media has solved or been very instrumental in finding people, in giving credible leads, right? So that's why we continue to share these missing person stories, why we continue to push for these people the voiceless, right? The voice for the voiceless.
So this concludes today's press conference. If you have any further questions, please contact my office at 501-513-3583, or you can send them to my email, which is lacey.kanipe@conwayarkansas.gov. You may also follow us on our social media for any updates. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are at Conway Police, and our Facebook handle is at Conway PD. Once again, thank you for attending this press conference. Have a wonderful day.
All right, let's go ahead and look up the Conway PD on Facebook. All right, I just wanted to see if there was anything else that had come up, and I don't see anything else new on the Facebook page. Here it just says that thank you to everyone who attended today's press conference regarding our investigation. We are incredibly thankful. She has been reunited with her family. Today is a good day. And the last post that they had, Tanvi has been located due to a tip received through missing kids from a Tampa resident. Tanvi was found safe in Florida. Her parents have been notified, and we are currently working with Tampa Police Department and the U.S. Marshal Service to bring her back to Conway. A special thanks to the community and the involved agencies for helping bring Tanvi home. This investigation will continue, and we will release more information as it becomes available. And that's something important to note. She is a minor, and so there is some information that they're not really able to say, especially since she has been located already. From here, a lot of times the PD might even stop giving out information because she is a minor. So out of respect to the privacy of the minor, we might not know any more information. But this is a bigger conversation I want to have. Let's see if there's anything else here. And I know that there were some comments, and this is where, in the comments is where I found out that she had been missing before, that she had run away before. It says here, I'm glad she's safe, but I'm not sure she's where she wants to be. Now someone needs to listen to her. why she tried to leave twice already. Because the version her parents are giving is BS. So it's interesting. I really do hope that protective services is involved and making sure that that she feels safe, right? Maybe she doesn't want to leave the U.S. now that she's here because she's started a life, but also being on the run isn't necessarily a life. So hopefully she gets the help and support that she needs. And all right, I'm going to do another search. Let's see if we can do. I'm going to do another search. Let's see if something comes up. This is a little Rambo. That's what the Marshal had said. Now, this is really interesting. There are a lot of Indian news that are covering this. So this was a story that's gotten some interest in India, which is very, very interesting. Not surprising, but interesting. Okay, so here is a story that's in Inside Edition, and it said nationwide search was launched for the girl who was 14 when she was reported missing January 17th. She was last seen walking away from her school bus in Conway, where she lived with her parents. A tip to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children led to her being found in a Tampa library, police said. They recognized the situation. They may have recognized the child. They took a quick picture and sent it to our call center. John Bischoff, Vice President of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, told KTHV-TV. Tampa police said Wednesday they found the girl who turned 15 while she was missing at the John J. German Library, and she appeared well and uninjured. Wow. Tanvi was actually, I hadn't read this before. Tanvi was a good student who excelled academically, had been frightened that her father, a tech worker, was going to lose his job amid massive layoffs in that field, her family said when she went missing. Sridevi Idara and Pavan Roy Marupally said earlier this month that deportation was no longer a concern. The parents posted a YouTube video pleading for their only daughter to come home. So I had not seen this before. Let's watch this together. Tanvi from Mom.
Please come back, Kali. In India also, Amama and Tataya and Mamaya are worrying about you. We are all waiting for you. We all support you. You are going to be here in US, and community will support you. Our family, friends will support you. Everyone is looking for you, and we are missing you every second. And it's kind of a big hole happened in front of me and your father.
The way you take care of me, the way you understand me, and the way you have changed my whole life. I think you have a very, very bright future, like your mom was saying. When I was lost in Hyderabad, in the Buffalo River Trail, I was lost, like for 16 hours in the forest, Buffalo Forest, I was lost. I called up your mom. You picked the phone from your mom, and you just said me, don't worry, Dad. You said, calm down, Dad. I'm here for you. You took your mom all the way from Conway, drove to Hyderabad for 1.5 hours, and gave me the exact instructions of how I should make up. Now it's making me so worrisome because you know everything, you know all the directions, you know everything, you know how to figure out stuff, and I'm helpless. I'm not able to help you out. So please come back, Tanvi. If it is about immigration, I've spoken to my company. You know, I have shown you your H4 dependent visa. It's all the way till 2025. 3 years. You know your mom has got an EAD card in January that we have been waiting for the past 3 years. She can work for any employer. So even if I lose my job, even if anything happens, your mom has a backup plan. Don't forget that we in December have planned out for the summer that's coming up for your summer break, and we said that we'll be visiting the Yellowstone National Park, and we have all the reservations up. Everything is prepared, and I'm lost. I'm lost in this situation, and I need your help. I need your guidance. You inspired me, and you know how much I love you.
Your birthday is coming near. Last time you asked me, okay, I need 2 milkshakes on my birthday. So please, Tali, we will do a big celebrations.
Wow. Okay. So I hadn't seen that before, and I didn't even know about that. So I'm glad that we found this. So let's see here. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had also launched a campaign to find the girl, with her face flashed on gas pump screens throughout Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Missouri. Spokeswoman Rebecca Steinbach said the effort was aided by the town of Conway, which held vigils and rescue searches to find the missing teen. You wish every community with a missing child would respond the way Conway has, Steinbach said when the campaign was launched early this month. On Wednesday, Bishop praised the Tampa woman who reached out to the center's tip line. In reality, all it really takes is one set of eyes to be a hero, and that citizen is it today. Beautiful. Okay. So let's just do one more search to see if there's anything else that pops up. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Let's see what it says here. Oh, okay. So this is cool. It says here, KATV spoke with the Tampa area resident who wishes to remain anonymous, who spotted the teen at the John F. Germany Public Library. They said that they remember Tanvi through an Instagram page they follow for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the NCMEC. They recounted that they followed the page from a past experience with a friend who ran away when they were younger. They said they weren't sure if the person was Tanvi, but sent the photo to NCMEC to make sure. I recognized the short hair and her stature looked very similar, but it was really the fact that she was wearing the same earrings in all of the pictures. That was what made me realize that it was most definitely her. They said it's important for people to follow pages like NCMEC and said they hope Tanvi was well. I hope she feels safe at home and that everything's fine, that she knows that her parents love her and that there's no reason she has to run, they said. Jenny Wallace, a community member who helped search for the teenager, said community members canvassed neighborhoods, checked security cameras, and helped fundraise to get Tambi on billboards. There were days that were a whole lot harder than other days, and there were days that you had this renewed hope, Wallace said. Wallace said she thought that if the community didn't get involved in the process, Tambi would not have been found because she said Conway police did not help the case as much as they could have. Interesting. Wallace said she hoped important lessons would be taken from the situation to help bring children back home to their parents. You see, remember there was that whole thing about there was some controversy with the police. Some people feel like they didn't do all that they could, and possibly because she was a runaway versus if she had been an abducted or missing person. Missing children deserve every bit of our efforts, Wallace said. A child that is missing is always in danger. All in all, Wallace said she hopes the community can continue to rally around Tanvi and to make sure she gets everything she needs. All right. So that was interesting. So remember I said I wanted to bring up the human trafficking thing, and that really, ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's a runaway or if the person has been abducted or missing in some other way, maybe an accident or whatever. The fear, the possibility of human trafficking exists with young people who are homeless. There's other things that happen, not just human trafficking, but there could be other SA and other abuse that can happen when a young person is on the street, especially if they're homeless. So, I am so grateful, and I think we should all be happy and grateful that Tanvi appears to be in good health, at least physically. Now, what type of emotional and mental support that she needs, I think obviously she needs help in that area. And but at least the concern that she had with her parents potentially being deported seems to not be an issue. It's a non-issue at this point. And frankly, by the time she gets to be, I think they said that the father's visa might be through 2025. So by that time, she might be already going to, be admitted to college if she decides to go to college. And so then she could even be independent from her parents at that point, if that's so much of a concern. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Let me know, was there other answered or unanswered questions that you have that weren't addressed? Keeping in mind that there is some information we're not going to know because she is a minor. And I just want to say, I live in Florida and it's so humid here. So thank you for bearing with me with my humid frizzy hair. And anyway, if you enjoy this video, if you learned something, I'd appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you want to know more about true crime with more of a compassionate, empathetic, empowering angle, I'm your gal. Make sure to follow, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification so you get notified anytime I go live or post a video or post a short. And I wish you an empowering week. Stay safe, stay thriving, and bye for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. Thank you.